But Brandon, let's move on into, we're going from the NFC South, we're going to go to the NFC East and not talk about the Philadelphia Eagles that you have mentioned in the first segment, because they are also bad, like the Atlanta Falcons, or I should say they're struggling like the Atlanta Falcons, which real quickly what I'll say, their struggles are easy. 2 of their coaches left in the offensive room. DeFilippo's in Minnesota, Frank Wright is in Indianapolis, but these fans who have come in on YouTube don't want to hear me talk about the Eagles. They're here to hear us talk about the New York Football Giants, or as what Mark likes to do after I say that, is he'll just say football anything. The Miami Football Dolphins, the New England Football Patriots, the New York Football Jets. He'll just do it all about anything, but we're talking about the New York Football Giants, not the baseball Giants, the Football Giants. And the reason why we're talking about them is Odell Beckham did an interview with, I think it was Jolisa Anderson from ESPN, I believe. Yeah, Jolisa Anderson from ESPN. And he said in it, it's an interesting quote, when he was asked about Eli Manning, he said, "I don't know. Like I said, I feel like he's not going to get out the pocket. We know Eli's not running it. But is it a matter of time issue? Can he still throw it? Yeah. But it's been pretty safe, and it's been, cool catching shallow routes and trying to take it to the house. But I'm, want to go over the top of somebody," end quote. Now, part of this could be, diva wide receiver. Of course, you want to go over the top. You want the big play. You're Odell Beckham. You want to grab it behind your head. But there's also the question of Eli Manning's a 37-year-old quarterback. Although he hasn't looked terrible, this Giant offense hasn't looked great as a whole. They are 1-4 on the year. Yes, I know they should have won yesterday, but it took a record-setting kick by the Panthers to win that game, but they did, and now the Giants are 1-4. So, Brandon, I'm going to ask you, should the Giants move on from Eli Manning after this season? After 2018,
the New York Giants should have moved on from Eli this past year. Mm-hmm. And I really... So
you're on the Sam Darnold... They should have drafted Sam Darnold at number 2 and moved on from Eli.
Drafted one of them. It didn't need to be Sam Darnold.
Well, I'm just saying that because Mark always brings up Sam Darnold at number 2.
Well, do I look like Mark Rickey?
No, I'm keeping the onside kick theme.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, obviously. But they should have. I have the utmost respect for Eli Manning. I think he's been a good quarterback. The Super Bowls, which a lot of people will put up to see, are you a good quarterback? Well, let me see how many Super Bowls you got. Okay, yeah, you got 2. Against 2? Oh, the Patriots, both of them. Okay. Cool.
Not even your brother could do that. Yeah. Well, never met him in the Super Bowl.
So I think that, I have a ton of respect for him. He's had a great career. He's done a great job. He's done a really good job and great things for this organization. But it is time. It's time to go. It's time to go. And at the same time, you've gotten no help. The New York Giants, for a long time now, they haven't done much to their offensive line. They haven't gone out and been really aggressive in making sure that they're getting a really good offensive line. But you know who has? The Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't really show for anything, but they have a really good offensive line. Zeke Elliott has a wonderful statistic at the end of every year because he's got running room. He creates a lot for himself because he's a talented player, but his offensive line, anchored by Zach Martin, is outstanding. The New York Giants would kill Ereck Flowers for that. As you should anyways, because Ereck Flowers is awful. I want to just get on a mini soapbox really quick. Ereck Flowers, Ricky's telling me that it has come out that the New York Giants are going to want to either trade or cut Ereck Flowers.
The official word is the Giants will release Ereck Flowers if he is not traded by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern.
And everyone knows that no way in hell anyone else wants Ereck Flowers on their team.
So he's going to get cut.
He's going to get cut. Ereck Flowers has been so bad. It's beyond the point of funny. It was funny at first because Eli's running for his life. Now it's like, oh my gosh, get him out of there. This isn't cool anymore. It was fun for a minute. It's over. Ereck Flowers has been a detriment to the right side of this offensive line. Eli has no time. But here's the flip side of the coin of you move on from Eli, you put in a rookie quarterback. Well, gosh, they're going to be doing even worse. If not this, if this not the same thing, certainly worse. They're going to be running for their lives. There's no one who you can put back there. Put back Tom Brady. Put back Tom Brady with this offensive line. Yeah, maybe he'll make a couple more plays because he is who he is.
But he'll still not win the game.
You're still going to struggle. You're still going to struggle. Odell, I would be with Odell. I would say I want more balls, over the top. The crossing route's nice, but give that to Sterling Shepard. That's what he's here for. I want to be the deep man. Well, guess what? There is no time to throw it to you. There's no time. So while, yes, the New York Giants probably need to move on from Eli Manning, and certainly next year should be the year that they kind of cut the cord and say, Eli, it has been awesome, man. Go and retire. Go and retire. Don't even try and go to another team. Just go and retire. But now it's, what quarterback are you going to go and get? Because this past year was the year of the quarterback. Well, and while you got Saquon Barkley, which is a great move, you need to first build. You need to build and have the kingdom before you can bring in the king. That's I don't really think that you should bring in the king and then have the king have to go and build it all. You should already have it in place for that person to be able to walk in and have a really good opportunity. And if they're going to do that, the Giants need to build a really good offensive line. They have the offensive weapons. They have Odell Beckham. They have Sterling Shepard. They have, when healthy, Evan Ingram. They have an outstanding running back in Saquon Barkley who can run, who can obviously catch, who can throw. I mean, this guy is awesome, multifaceted. But if you don't have an offensive line outside of maybe Nate Solder, who's going to allow you time to get the football out and be able to go through all of your progressions. I mean, Eli, this is Eli. He's getting the football snapped to him. He can't even get done looking at progression one before they're coming at him. So that's the problem. They need to build this offensive line and then get the quarterback. But what they may have to do is they may have to do the same, both of them at the same time. They may have to be building this offensive line while they're bringing in a quarterback. And that's going to be the number one thing. Well, you can go back and you can say, well, man, you could have had Baker Mayfield if you would have tried to, trade up for that. You could have had Sam Darnold. You could have had Josh Allen. You could have had Josh Rosen. You could have.
And well, guess what?
But guess what? They don't.
Well, and that's where I'm going to stop you because, first off, because I know Mark would have made that they should have just taken Sam Darnold instead of Barkley. Stop looking at the past right now. Just stop doing it. Look forward. It is what it is. You got to look forward. And when it looks to the quarterback position, you got choices. Do you do it during the draft or do you do it during free agency? Because you're right. This next crop of quarterbacks coming up in this next year's draft is nowhere near what we were last year. You're not going to get a Sam Darnold. You're not going to have a Josh Rosen. You're not going to have a Baker Mayfield. And also another question that they have to answer is, so they cut Davis Webb because they really liked the kid out of Richmond, the Spiders. They really liked Kyle Luletta, who is on the team. He's like a 5th-round quarterback. Is he going to be the next Peyton or the next Tom Brady, be a starting quarterback after being drafted in the 6th round? No, I'm not saying that. But they got to decide there, how much do you like Kyle Luletta, and can he develop into your starting quarterback? Or is it just, we liked him more than Davis Webb, and that's why he's on the team right now? If they're going to go get a quarterback in this draft, at the point we're at now, which kind of seems stupid to bring it up because, you look at it and there's 6 teams tied for the number 1 spot. But based off of strength of schedule right now, if the season ended today, the Giants would be the number 1 pick in the draft. And I'm sorry. As of right now, if you're the number 1 pick in the draft, there's one position you're not drafting, and that's a quarterback. You're not taking a quarterback number 1 if you are the number 1 pick. Right now, if you're the number 1 pick, you're taking either Ed Oliver out of Houston, getting yourself a good defensive lineman, or you're taking Nick Bosa and getting yourself a pass rusher on the outside. That kind of seems to be the 1-2 of it. Do you go with Oliver? Do you go with Bosa? or do you go Rashad Gray out of Michigan as well? Those are kind of like the 1, 2, and then maybe 3 at that number 1 pick. Here's what I'm thinking, though. Disregard quarterback in the first round altogether. I know that pick could determine, like, if they're later in the pick, if a Justin Herbert's there, they might like Justin Herbert. We haven't seen, obviously, the rest of this season and then workouts. This is kind of what I would do if I was the Giants. Eli plays this year. If Eli comes back next year, all right, I'd keep him for 1 more year. Otherwise, like you, if you're saying, all right, Eli, you're done after this year, Tyrod Taylor is going to be a free agent. I'll tell you this, he's not going to be in Cleveland next year. The Baker Mayfield era has started. So why not go after Tyrod, bring him in for next year, and then in the 2020 draft, then that's where I go and try to make a stab on either a Dwayne Haskins or a Tua Tagovailoa. Where I know it's one of those things where you're going, Ricky, you're banking a lot in a quarterback class 2 years from now, but I'm kind of thinking that the free agency for now, draft a quarterback in 2020, hoping that you can maybe get like a Haskins or a Tua guy, would be better than this draft going, hey, let's get a Will Grier, let's get a Drew Lock, let's get a Justin Herbert, and wasting that top pick. I'm going to say it, wasting that top pick. Maybe Justin Herbert. He's probably the only quarterback right now, draft-wise, that I've really liked. Will Grier is also kind of on the outside. But yet again, you look at our big board coming in, I didn't have a quarterback in the top 25 of the big board coming into the way too earlys, and I definitely would not have a quarterback in this draft class taken at number 1, especially if that's where the Giants do end up. So it's, for me, get a free agent this year and then go after your quarterback, because you're probably going to be bad enough to get a Haskins or a Tua in next year's draft class.
I just really have to shake my head at the New York Giants. You just have to be so disappointed with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they got Saquon Barkley. I think everyone can be happy about that. You got an absolute playmaker. You have Odell Beckham, another absolute playmaker.
You got a run game for a team that hasn't had a run game in, like, I don't know, forever.
You do. That's huge, but it's not translating to winning games.
Yes.
That's the problem. You're 1-4
because your quarterback's old.
And where did you miss out again last year? You missed out on free agency. Who was there in free agency that you could have gone after? Look at the guys. I mean, one of them specifically was Kirk Cousins. Drew Brees maybe was there if you could have tried to entice him. Oh, yeah, leave New Orleans, come here, come to New York and do all that. You weren't going to be able to do that.
And I'm only throwing this out, because I'm a Vikings fan, but also I want to get your just quick opinion on it. Kirk Cousins, though, did any outside team have a chance, or was that pretty much locked into the Vikings from the start? Like, I felt like it was almost a lock that I don't know what the deal was going to be, but like during the offseason as a Vikings fan, I was pretty confident that, yes, Kirk Cousins is coming here.
No, I think that you're actually, you've got to be lying when you say that, because there's no 100% certainty that he was always going to be a Viking at the end of the year. The Vikings offered him the absolute best deal. I don't even think that New York went after him.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. But what they should have been doing is they should have been aggressively going after someone like that. I'm not saying Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback in the league. He is not. But he's an upgrade from Eli Manning. He's an upgrade to have at your quarterback position, and guess what? You can still get Barkley in the draft. This is it's a mind-blowing thing, that the way that this New York front office has dealt with things, handled things, done things, and they are now putting themselves in a really tough spot where your 5 top quarterback free agents in 2019 are Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, Brett Hundley, Trevor Siemian, and Josh McCown. Out of that, I want Josh McCown. He's the most proven. He's the guy I'd go after. I would want Josh McCown.
Over Tyrod?
Yes.
Even though Tyrod's 10 years younger?
Yes. Josh McCown, especially, and here's why I'm saying this. If you're talking, kind of going back to what you said, for 1 year, if you're saying 1 year until you can wait till the next quarterback class that's going to be probably pretty good,
you'll lose more games with McCown than you would with Taylor. Because you want a high draft pick in order to get. Because I'm thinking you want a high draft pick. No,
I'm saying if you're holding over, Josh McCown will keep you in some games. You're still going to be able to get that quarterback in that next draft. I'm not saying that Tyrod Taylor is bad. I'm just saying I think Josh McCown would be a little bit more stable of a quarterback that you're going with, because I think at the same time, while you're kind of selling out for the just tank, just have a bad season, go ahead, do it. Well, I can never bring myself to just do that.
I'm not saying all right, go 0-16, but
because only the Browns and the Lions can.
Let's be completely honest. If Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback of this team, do they vastly Do you see any games on the schedule that are like, yep, that would be a for sure win? There might be like one or two. Maybe this last week they do pull out a win, or maybe like against Dallas, against Dallas they pull out a win there. Like that Houston game, Houston even gave them that win. Said, here you go, here's a win. Because Houston was in that game up until the very end when they lost 27-22. I feel like even if you got a Tyrod Taylor, even if you got a Josh McCown, you're not changing a ton when it comes to the win-loss record, to where the most important thing is how good is your team going to be with that new quarterback. Like the one example I wanted to bring up was the Saints. You mentioned Drew Brees. He is going to turn at the end of this year, by the playoffs, he will be 40 years old. He is 39 years old right now. What did the Saints do this season? Well, actually, I think it was right before the regular season. They went out and traded for Teddy Bridgewater, traded for a backup. Part of me, and yes, I'm looking at hindsight, which is always 20/20, but why didn't the Giants do that? They got Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur worked with Teddy Bridgewater, and it could be a thing where, maybe he didn't like Teddy Bridgewater. He was more of a Case Keenum kind of a guy, but there's that too, where it's like, why didn't they do that? Or do they really believe that Kyle Luletta is the answer and they're going to develop him as the next starter over Eli Manning? After Eli Manning. I will be honest, I liked Kyle Luletta coming out of the draft. I thought he was going to be a solid option in the later rounds. Had him like as a 5th, 6th rounder in my full mock draft. I just don't know if there's not enough answers to know for sure, we don't need to draft another quarterback because we got Kyle Luletta kind of waiting in the wings. He's so young. He's a rookie this year, and it's not even like he's a Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield type of rookie. He's like a 5th rounder who needs to develop in years before you can even throw him out there. So like for me, that's why free agency is the answer. And the thing I want to ask you is, one of the big things I heard them mentioning on First Take today was RPO. Oh, you got to have more RPO. Eli can't run that RPO offense. Do you go after a quarterback who can do that? Kind of like what I'm going to say, like what the Bears are doing with Mitch Trubisky a little bit, and running more RPOs with Matt Nagy than what they did with John Fox. This will just be the opposite of like, we can run more of those now because Eli just couldn't do that, but this quarterback we got can now do that.
Maybe. And I think that could maybe help to open some things up a little bit more on the offense. But I will still go back to this. You can put a king back there, but if you got crap in front of him, it doesn't matter. I mean, that the argument can almost be ended right there, because how many times now, this has been the same argument, this has been the same conversation that a New York fan has probably had for the last 2 or 3 years. This offensive line is no good. We need some help and for some protection for Eli, among other things that I'm sure New York fans were probably saying. Many were probably in the colorful language category, but it's something where like I've mentioned, you could put the best quarterback back there. They're going to struggle if they don't have a good offensive line, if they have no protection. I'm not saying that the New York Giants need to go and have the number one offensive line in football. They need to put so much money in that they can't go out and get anything else. They need to put so much money in the offensive line. But what they need to do is they need to at least get to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. I mean, look at the game. If you watch the game over the weekend and it was the Sunday night football game, you watch Dallas, who has a good offensive line. You watch Houston, who doesn't have that great of an offensive line. But guess what? They were still at least able to make plays. Deshaun Watson at least had some time in the pocket to be able to throw, to find QT, to be able to find DeAndre Hopkins. Eli Manning has no time to be able to find Odell Beckham.
It's kind of like a hike up. I hope you're open because that's all the time I had to throw.
That, or it's already running back to go into the child's position because you're taking a sack. How many times have we seen that? And it's a bit funny, but how many times have we seen Eli Manning do that in the last couple of years? Too many. You can do so many things. You can get so many good players. It doesn't matter if you have nothing in front of you to protect you, or to open up lanes for you, or to give you time to be able to make a good throw. That is not going to happen without an offensive line that's at least league average. They are nowhere near league average. They are league low.
Well, and the last thing I will mention is the most interesting thing is when we get to actual draft discussions here on the Onside Kick. Like our first mock draft, I believe, is the beginning of November, so we're getting close. I want to say it's the same week that you and I do our first NBA big board for the start of the college basketball season. The debate will be this, depending on where the Giants are in the top 10, because they're going to be in the top 10, it's going to be this. Do you go with a defensive end because you're there and it's like, I got to take a Nick Bosa because there's no way I can take someone besides him? Do I go with a offensive lineman like a Greg Little out of Ole Miss, a Josiah Williams or a Jonah Williams out of Alabama, or the ultimate debate, the third one, if they're at like 6? Do you go with a Justin Herbert? Do you go with a quarterback that high? Those are going to be the three positions that people are going to debate what they should do: pass rusher, tackle, or go with a quarterback. And that's what we're going to be talking about. However, I believe you and I are on the same boat. Don't draft a quarterback in the first round. Take either probably an offensive tackle, but if you're at 1 and 2, there's no way you're going to pass up Nick Bosa or Ed Oliver for an offensive tackle. Try to get a quarterback in free agency and then look at quarterback. Like, that's the thing. Like, I know I'm fantasy booking here with the draft, but I think that I can see in my crystal ball either Dwayne Haskins or Tua being drafted by the Giants in 2020. Like, that's just what I see. One of those two guys will be targeted by the Giants, because even if they got a Josh McCown, even if they got a Tyrod Taylor, I don't think that magically jumps them out of the top 6, but maybe just barely out of the top 10, and they'll be like 11 through 13 with one of those. Any final thoughts before we move on into Super Bowl discussion?
No.
This is where you guys come in, though. Let us know what you guys think, Giant fans. I know you guys will let us know. How long do you want the Giants to keep on to Eli? Do they move on after the season? Should they move on after the season? And what would you do with the quarterback situation? Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.